just a lowly panelist, and I have no real control over anything.
It's okay. I like it. It's these steps that sort of ground me into getting ready for our show. So
Oh,
with
excellent.
live on Facebook, recording button pushed. So here we are, Monday, episode 19 of the Georgie and Patty Show. I'm Georgie,
I'm Patty.
and we still have no tagline, but that's okay because we don't care. Um,
Progress, not perfection.
that's right. One day we'll have one. The right one will show up, and then we'll share it. Good morning, those on Facebook. And yeah, so today it's all about storytelling, kind of our version of storytelling. I like Patty's little spin there, twisted storytelling, because we're going to talk about a few different angles of storytelling, and how we see it, our opinion of it, exactly, as we do. So I thought this morning I'm going to start with my quote and then kind of give a little rant after that, and then we'll get into our actual slides. So the quote for today is, everybody has a story, and when we don't take the time to know someone's story, or worse, we create our version of their story, we lose the chance to understand what they need, which is the first step to empathy. And that's by someone by the name of Jon Acuff. I have no idea who that is. However, I really like the quote. And when I think about this, it's oftentimes we kind of want to rush this process a bit. We don't want to take the time to actually get to understand someone, to really step into their world, to hear what they're saying. Or we just make up our own version of it. And the truth is, every single one of us wants to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. We want to feel like we're important. We want to be the hero. And so when it comes to our business, we often want to skip this. We want to jump right to, here's the things I do, here's how I do it, you're going to love it, here's why you should listen to me because I'm so blah, 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 blah. And we forget that, wait a second, there's a human being on the other side of us who they have a story too. And do we take the time to really understand who they are, where they're coming from, what really matters to them? And it's in this kind of initial step that we really get the information from them and to see, can we really help them? And do we really want to? But just spending that time with someone is so, so valuable. It actually even sets yourself up for providing value to someone before you ever do anything else. Oh, look, we have a guest. Yay. So I really want to encourage you that people's stories are powerful and people want to share their story more than they actually want to hear yours. And so if you will take the time to dive into their story, ask questions, get curious, it's only going to benefit your business as you move forward. And it builds more connections, right? We are all about this heart-to-heart kind of way of doing businesses, getting to know people, building relationships, doing the things that matter for others. Client-centered, right? And we say that all the time. And so being able to take the time to understand someone else's story is one of the key ways that we can do that. So on that note, let's play some slides.
All right.
Get this party started. And even as I'm actually going to have a question for you to think about as we get started, is to, how often do you find yourself wanting to rush through that initial phase of discovery? And often it's because we're not really sure what to do and it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but just maybe start to think about how often do I want to just kind of skip that or move it as quick as I can. So now I'm ready. Oh, good morning.
Jackson says good morning. He was biting my hands and sticking his feet on my keyboard. So, yeah.
So cute.
So sorry. Distraction.
Live shows, people, live shows. This is how this works.
Exactly. Unscripted and unedited, live from Prince Rupert. So once upon a time, it was a dark and stormy Monday morning. And Patty and Georgie said, our topic's storytelling. What the hell do we do? So what we're going to talk about today is Georgie introduction to this, and the quote is absolutely perfect. The approach that we're going to take with this is about it is about understanding your customers, and it's about how to use storytelling or the structure of storytelling to develop your business messaging, your marketing, how you do business, your approach to doing business. So there's an element of using story for that, including a book recommendation. Woo! And also, we're going to look at kind of the internal stories that we tell ourselves, and what does that mean in terms of helping us move forward or creating obstacles for ourselves. So to begin with, you've probably heard by now this idea of a hero's journey, kind of a story structure. Storytelling in business and in marketing has been a hot topic for a few years now, based on this idea that we're more willing to listen to stories. We remember stories more than we remember facts. Stories are a great way of attracting attention, maintaining a degree of interest, and conveying information that might be a little dry if it's just going to be in kind of step by steps, or even in some cases might come across as a little bit harsh or something like that. So storytelling can be a great way to structure your message. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview of what the hero's journey kind of story structure looks like. And then I'm going to tell you about how you can use that to think about your marketing and about your business. So the hero's journey, to make this really quick, starts off with the hero. And something to keep in mind is that everybody is the hero of their own story. Even that alone, if you can just think about that. A few years ago, I read something that basically said, we're all the heroes of our own stories, and we're nothing but bit players in other people's stories. And I found that really useful in terms of perspective. We often get kind of wrapped up in our own heads about what's going on in our business, what's going on in our world, and we don't stop to consider the fact that our role in our future customers' lives is really short, really small. They don't spend a lot of time thinking about us. Once you're working together, they might spend a little more time thinking about you. But before you've got that relationship going, they're living their whole life on their own. They are the hero of their own story, and you just might be like an extra, kind of waving at them from the crowd, kind of thing. So that can be helpful for perspective. So when we think about the hero's journey, we're thinking about there's a hero, the protagonist of the story. This is the person that things happen to. And in a hero's journey kind of structure, which follows, pretty much every movie you've ever seen follows some kind of a hero's journey, there is that main character that wants something. They want something and they're out to get it. The guy wants to meet the girl, the young person wants to succeed in their business. The football team wants to win the championship. There's a desire. There's something that they want, and they're out to get it. And they set off on this quest. They're on the path. They're going to get this thing that they want, and then they encounter obstacles. Stuff happens. It'd be the world's boringest movie if it was like, I'm going to go out and find a girlfriend. Oh, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. I ask somebody out. We get married and live happily ever after. That's a really boring plot line. Obstacles need to show up. It's not a fun movie if the football team wins instantly and walks out with the cup 2 minutes into the story. So obstacles need to come up. The path might have looked a little bit easier than you thought it was to begin with, and all of a sudden you got these challenges and you're not sure you're going to make it. And it's looking pretty scary at some points. You can see this is where the plot gets interesting in the story. How is our hero going to overcome the obstacles and get this object of their desire? And you may have some villains that show up and make life miserable. And the villain keeps showing up. It keeps doing bad things. And as a movie watcher, you're rooting for the hero, and you're really angry with the villain. And it's kind of like this moment of like, oh, all hope is lost, and the villain is too powerful to overcome, and the obstacles are ridiculous, and the hero wants to give up. When what should appear but a guide, somebody smart who's been there before, who knows the terrain. The guide has a plan. The guide has tools. The guide has advice. And the guide is going to help our hero get what they're looking for. It's that coach in the football story that works with the awkward player that can't seem to run the right direction on the field. It's the wise Yoda. it's the person who has a plan, has some information, helps the hero on their journey, and together they overcome those obstacles, and it ends with the with the happy ending at the end, where the hero gets what they're searching for. This is kind of, watch any movie, read any book, you're going to see a story that's going to flow roughly like this. Is your classic kind of hero's journey sort of a storyline. And if it weren't for the fact that this is all the rage and everybody is talking about this would be the point where you say, so what, Patty, what the hell does this have to do with business? So this is a very, very useful framework for looking at your business and your brand and how you communicate with the world. You can think about it in terms of this hero's journey type of framework, and it can be really helpful to look at it this way. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about brand messaging, and in that video, talked about the idea that there's three things that you talk about in your brand messaging. You talk about you or your company. That's part of your messaging. You talk about your clients. You want your messaging to be client-centered. And you talk about your services, the thing that you do for your client. And the combination of you and your clients making this personal connection, that's how you connect with each other, is you show yourself and you see your clients. This goes back to what Georgie said at the beginning of the presentation about taking the time to understand where they're coming from and who they are. That's what creates the connection. It creates a bit of an attraction. When you look at your services and your clients, the intersection between these things is your value. This is what makes what you do worth what it is that you're charging for it. This is that exchange. You're going to help them do something, and that has value. And when you're providing something that is what they're looking for, what they're struggling for, what they want, it's that combination that creates the value. And then everyone wants to be unique and stand out. Well, you are unique, and the way you do things is unique. That's where you find your uniqueness, is in who you are and the services that you offer, the plan that you have. So when we can look at this, these are the parts and pieces of your brand messaging, how you're going to talk about your business. And we can take that hero's journey story and we can map it right on top of this. So here's the thing that we notice a lot of people get a little bit tripped up on. And Georgie alluded to this at the beginning of the presentation. The hero of the story is not you. The hero of your brand story is your clients. And when you keep your client as the hero in mind and you step into their story, not your own, that's what makes all of this stuff work. So when we look at that map of the hero's journey story, your client is the hero. You are the guide. You're the wise person that comes in with the tools and the perspective and the expertise. You have the map of the terrain. You know where they're going. You can help them. That's your job, is to be the guide, not the hero. And your services are the plan. you know, they're the plan, they're the tools, they're the special weapons and technological gizmos that they have in the James Bond movies, right? Those are your services. You bring that stuff in, and you're the guide, and you help your client get the thing that they're after. So when you start thinking about the elements of the story you're going to tell about your business and how you're going to put your marketing out there, you're looking at your hero's aspirations. What do your clients want? First question to be asking is like, what do they want? What are they after? What's their destination? What's their dream? What's their football game that they want to win? It's like, you think about that. What do they want? You talk about that. What do they want? You don't talk about what you want. Nobody cares what you want. Well, you care what you want, but your clients don't really. They care about what they want. So when you keep the story focused on your clients all the time, you'll end up with marketing messaging that's really effective because you're talking about what they want. And we're interested in hearing more about what we want. We're interested in listening to stories that talk about people who get the things that we want. Case studies, testimonials, examples of the work that you've done with your clients. How did you help other clients get the thing that they want? Clients are also concerned with their problems. What are the obstacles they're encountering? How do they get past it? What do they do to get across the rope bridge, or to grab the trapeze, or to get across the big river with, you know, the raging river and there's no bridge? How do they get there? How do they overcome the problems that they're experiencing? How do you help them do that? What advice do you have? Great things to use in your marketing to talk about those problems, right? And a villain. Maybe there's a villain that's getting in the way of the clients getting what they want. Maybe there's something that they see as the enemy, as the monster in the shadows that's really working against them. And this is something, this maybe a little bit of a subtle distinction here, but one of the things that you might want to look at when you're looking at your client and what they want and where they're going and the problems that they're encountering is to actually name a villain. It's like, what is that villain that's getting in the way? And this is the place where you can shift the blame for the problem away from your client and onto something else. It's easier for clients to see that they're able to change and able to make a difference if they can see the villain as something out there that the two of you can take on together, versus I'm flawed, I can't do this. It's a disempowering place to believe that the problem that they're encountering and the villain that they're up against is themselves. So one of the ways you can do this is oftentimes the villain can be something like, you don't have the information. There's some things that you need to be doing that you don't know how to do. It's not your fault. You're capable of getting the thing that you want. You're capable of overcoming those obstacles. But the villain in this case, the real problem, is the messages you're getting from society. It's the information you got as a child that's not helpful. It's some techniques that you're using that aren't working well for you. And to overcome that, I've got a plan. Here's some different things that you can do. Here's a way to overcome that villain. You can overcome that lack of information by learning this stuff or incorporating this plan. So it can be really helpful to create that outer villain, and that's what you help your clients do. You help them get what they want by overcoming that villain, and you have a plan for them. Now, there is this great book called Building a Story Brand. And it basically talks about exactly this, about how to craft these kind of messages, how, keeping your client as the hero of the story, getting super clear on what they want and what's standing in their way. So if you've found this intriguing, I would recommend this book about building a story brand, especially the first half of it. The beginning of this book, some of the examples that he gives, although they are for big businesses, I know when I read it, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is awesome. This is the kinds of things that I've been telling my clients for a long time. He just managed to put this um, into a really nice structure and into a really nice process that could be worth checking out if you're struggling to figure out um, how to explain what you do. Put it into kind of a story format. Um, so that's the how to use story in your marketing and your brand messaging part of this morning's presentation. And I will turn it over to my co-host to look at the other side of the stories.
Yeah, because the other side of the stories that we want to look at are, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? So in your own kind of life, in your own business, you are the hero in your story too. But what are you saying to yourself? Because the reality is we are all, making up stories all the time in our own minds as business owners and as we go about into our business. So what kind of stories are you telling yourself? Are these stories helping you, or are they sort of hindering you? Are you making up nightmares? Are you creating scenarios where they're just instilling kind of fear and panic in you where you are not moving forward? Like, if you tell yourself that every time I pick up the phone, the person on the other end does not want to hear from me. They're going to yell at me. They're going to scream at me. I'm going to be a pest. No one has sales conversation. No one answers the phone. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to give a presentation. What if I forget all the words? I haven't done a presentation like this, so I don't know if I can. Probably I can't. I can't. I should. I ought to. All of these things are really more nightmare stories, and often it's easier to get stuck in our own nightmares of every single thing that could go wrong instead of creating stories that can actually serve us and help us to move forward. So I'm a firm believer, if we're making all this stuff up anyway, we might as well create the fairy tale. And I've talked about this a few times before, where it's like, what if you created the story that the person on the other end of the phone wanted to hear from you? What if that person on the other end of the phone hasn't been able to share their story with anyone? They're going to be excited that you're there to listen to them. What if you're the person that can actually help that person feel seen, heard, and understood? They're going to be really, really excited to hear from you. What if you went out and did a presentation, and there was even just one person in the audience that really needed to hear that message in only the way that you could deliver it? Would that not be worth it? Would that not be a great story for you to tell in your own mind? I think it's really important to start to look at the self-talk that we have going on with, especially how we're presenting ourselves in the world, how we're presenting ourselves in the business. I often, when I'm working with clients, I want people to create their own superhero. When you show up as your very best self, what's that inner superhero look like? And what if you created the stories from your superhero's point of view? Or if you start to kind of go down the dark side, create the twisted stories that are creating the nightmares, maybe you need to bring in your superhero and see how she would tell the stories. What kind of stories would she be telling that situation? Because often we just need a little change in perspective to keep us moving, to be able to pick up the phone, to be able to do the presentation, to be able to do the role play, to put the post out on Facebook, whatever it might be. And even if I think of a social media thing, often we get stuck because we're so afraid of what people are going to say to us. What if you made up the story that it's okay, the first 5 posts I make, no one's even going to see it. It's okay. And the only people that are going to see my posts are the people who really want to see it. It's all made up, because we go from everyone's going to hate it, so you can go with that story, or what if everyone's going to love it? Like, I prefer to go with the stories that are going to help me move forward. And the reality is, your voice matters. What you have to say matters. So really look at the stories you're creating in your head, and are they stopping you, or are they stopping you or moving you forward? And if they're not moving you forward, change your stories. Bring in the superhero, put on the cape, put on the crown, whatever you got to do, but change your story and see what happens, because it's all just made up anyway, you know? And, you know, take a look at your reflection. How are you showing up? We've used this slide before, you know, are you, when you look in the mirror, are you the little kitten and all you see is the little kitten? Or are you that little kitten that looks in there and they see the lion? Like, do you see the superhero within yourself? Because that lion is going out there and he's like big and he's strong and he's courageous and he's like, yeah, I got this. I'm ruling my land, you know? So are you the business owner that when you look in the mirror, make up a great story about yourself? Because we have that power, you know, we absolutely do. Our mental capacities are amazing, and it just makes it easier. And even if you get on the phone with someone and it did not go the way you wanted it to go, make up a story. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe you caught them at a bad moment. Maybe, you know, maybe their boss just yelled at them, but you can totally make up whatever story you need to make up that's going to help you move forward. Because the reality is, unless you ask that person what's going on, you don't know. It's all completely made up. It's like, I think Patty and I were talking about this story the other day where the guy, and I think it's in a book, where the guy who's on the subway and his kids are running around, right? And they're going crazy. And there's a person on the train that's like, God, you know, why won't that guy do something with those kids? They're so irritating, you know? So that person's making up a story about what's happening there. And then you find out that the guy's wife has just died. So the kids have lost their mom, and you gain a new perspective on things, right? So we can make up these stories all the time to make it easier to get along with people, to make it easier on ourselves, to have a little more self-compassion and to help us move forward. But I think, you know, create your superhero, look in the mirror, see who you see, and just make up the stories that are going to support you. And notice when you're making up stories that are a nightmare. Do you want the nightmare or do you want the fairy tale? And you don't need anyone else in the fairy tale either than yourself. You are perfectly perfect, just exactly the way you are. You don't need a rescuer or anything like that. You got it. So yeah, just be aware of what stories we're telling ourselves. Because I think that creates, you know, the biggest thing that stops us in our business often from being the success that we want to be is ourselves. And usually that comes down to the stories that we're making up in our own mind.
I was just thinking it could be helpful too to make up that story about some of the obstacles that we encounter, like to kind of make that a story. It's like, okay, I'm doing this thing and I'm encountering the obstacle, and I've got this villain named procrastination. And just kind of draw a picture of the procrastination monster or whatever, and tell a story about how you vanquish the villain.
Totally. I think that's a great idea. And especially if you notice, let's say, what stories are continually coming up for you. Like if procrastination comes up all the time, what are those stories that you're creating, and make it fun. Notice how did I overcome that? Woohoo! You know, super great idea. I love that idea. You know, the more fun we make it, the better too, at least in my opinion.
I think too that it gives it kind of a level of detachment, right? It's
Exactly.
just okay, I'm going to step out of my life here for a moment, and it's like, okay, what if this was a story I was telling? What would, you know, I'm the hero in this story. What am I doing right now? What's the obstacle I'm encountering? Is there a guide I need to find to help me with this, right?
Totally, absolutely. What superpower do I need to bring in? You know, make it fun and make it interesting. And I think that's a really good point, is to be able to sort of disassociate yourself from it. Because as soon as we're right in it and we make it super personal, that's where we can kind of go into that spiral. That's where the emotions get really high. That's where we're on that really slippery slope. So anything we can do to take a step back, get a new perspective, is going to help for sure to make that story. Just make a story. I love it. I love that. write them out. I wonder how fun could be too, you know, is when you're doing your journaling or whatever. Ooh, it's not really me in the story. Oh, here's my little hero. Here's just the challenging obstacles. I'm on my path to getting to where I want to go. What would I do? What are some possibilities? And I think that's the other thing that does is it starts to get your brain thinking creatively on what are some other options? What are some possibilities? When I'm encountering this obstacle, what else is possible? Which also puts you in a good space to continue moving forward instead of getting stuck.
Or even thinking about telling the story later, right?
Yeah.
What does this story look like when I am victorious?
Exactly. Which then gives you great marketing stuff and great stories to tell with your clients and in your presentations. That is about you, and it doesn't make it necessarily it's not you talking about you, it's this third party perspective that makes it more interesting to your clients who are listening.
Yeah, there's a difference between being the guide and telling your own story, so to share with the client that you know where they're coming from and you've been through something similar, so you have some experience. Like there's a bit of a credibility in story attached to that, but it's not the main story. It's not all about you. It's more about, okay, what is this story in relationship to what the client is going through? And there's a difference. There's a difference in sharing a story that's relatable versus sharing a story that's self-centered, all about me. And I think sometimes this is the distinction that isn't always made clearly. When you look at people who've done really well telling stories and telling stories about themselves, they have a very, 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 very strong connection to what's going on for the client. And they are setting themselves up as a guide, even though it might not be evident from the way things are portrayed. But it's just keeping in mind, it's like, okay, what is this role in this story? That your client is the hero, you're the guide, and you telling your story is kind of one of the scenes where you establish a little bit of credibility as the guide, and then that's it. That was it. Your story came in and out for 30 seconds, and off you go on your client's story, basically. If that makes any sense at all.
I think that's a super good point, because it brings it up to, like, we're not saying never share your own stories or what you've been through with your clients. It's just make sure that it's really relevant. And I love how you put that into perspective of, it's one scene in the movie. It's not 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, where it's all about you. It's where it's really, you're still focused on your client. They are the hero and you're the guide, but this information from you as the guide is going to help them on their journey. You know, and it does build that credibility. I love that. You're one scene in the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're a supporting character. I'm sorry to tell you that you're a supporting character in their movie. But, the sooner you kind of catch on to that idea and embrace it, it's actually also, for anyone who maybe doesn't want to be the center of attention, doesn't like self-promotion. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to make it about me. I don't want to be, me. I don't want to do this self-promotion. It's like, it's more effective just to show up as a supporting character in somebody else's movie. It's like the spotlight is on the star, your client, less so on you.
Yeah. So our permission slip for the day is that we give you permission to create empowering stories for yourself. And you can use that as needed. You know, if things aren't going your way, then make it up. Make up a story that will empower you to keep moving forward so that you can do what you're meant to do in this world and help people and make a difference.
Yeah, we're doing this all day long, every day. We're telling ourselves, you take a moment and pay attention to the stories that you're telling yourself. You'll see you're telling yourself stories, making shit up all day long. Might as well create stories that help you move forward.
Yeah. And you can notice, whenever you find yourself stuck, or, maybe that little fear is coming up, you're afraid to make the call, you're afraid to do the email, you're afraid to do something, and you find yourself just not moving yourself forward, maybe just take a second and really look at what you're saying in your head. What is the story that you're making up? And is that your story? Is that a story that's come from your childhood? Is that someone else's opinion that you've decided to take on and make that your story? It can be a fun little exercise to just take a second. And again, it creates just enough space, right? Dissociate just a little bit and go, oh, yeah, I don't really like that story, actually. That one's not working for me. Let me just take 5 minutes. And what if I wrote a new story? And what if I approach this task, project, whatever it is, from that story? I wonder what would happen. Play the scenario out. See what difference it makes. This can be really, really a fun thing, really. And instead of getting stuck, we keep moving and we learn so much about ourselves, which is, I think, part of it too. I think that's why I harp so much about, know your values, find out what really matters to you, what's really important to you. And am I telling myself stories that aren't even mine? Or if I was really aligned with who I am and why I'm here and what I really want, my values, my beliefs, all of those things, what stories would I be saying then? What stories would I be telling myself in that space? Yeah, it's super fun, I think. Maybe because I love fun, so I'm always looking for ways to make things fun. So I'll do them. How do I make doing the hard work fun? How do I make looking at myself fun, even when it sucks sometimes? So yeah. Questions, comments, thoughts, stories you're making up? Okay, let me back up our chat box here. My story, reason for not getting to new projects, always seems to be too busy. I guess I don't have the excuse now that I've had to temporarily close my business. Time to get on with that project, new source of income I've been putting up. I will start it today. Thanks for the prompt. Woohoo!
New quest to complete the project.
Exactly.
You can be the hero of that story.
Yeah, how exciting is that, right? It's like, woohoo! Something makes everything so much more fun. I feel like I need to put on a costume. Or get out my wand. Where's my wand? Normally it's nearby, but not so close right now, I guess. Great perspective. It is so natural to continue to go back to the default position of placing all the focus on ourselves as we are creating a business that we are the product we are offering to others. Yes, it's so easy.
This is really a case of and.
Yes.
It's not an or, it's an and. It's just, you are the hero of your own story. You are the hero of your own business story within, within your office walls, if you want to look at it that way. It's like when you are out there doing business, doing the thing that you do, you are the hero of your business. It's just keeping that perspective that your client is the hero of theirs, and that the best way to reach them is to be that supporting player in their movie rather than try to drag them into your set. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I'm going to pull them over here and I'm going to make them part of my story. And it's like, no. To be effective, me being the hero in this story is going to be a supporting player over there. It's just that kind of perspective. It's like you're in both stories at once.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always the and, right? There's just no black and white. There's lots of stories playing at the same time. It's kind of like those movies, where you're seeing everyone's different. There's always kind of like mini movies within the movie, the different perspective. That's happening in life all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, I'm starting to ask myself, what part of someone's journey do I want to be the guide for? Great question. Really great question. I'm pretty sure I want to be the guide more at the beginning of someone's story, and I like the idea of giving someone a bag of tools to help them into their future and connecting someone with their next guide for the next part of the journey. Love that. Love that. And I think that's really, really, really a great question, especially when I think of someone who may be new or maybe getting started, and you kind of, especially in the coaching world or that kind of thing, and you think, I don't know if I can handle all problems and all things, and it stops you from moving forward. What a fabulous question to say, well, what part of someone's journey can I be their guide for? Where part am I comfortable at right now? This is my expertise. I'm the guide that's going to give you the cooking tour. But when you want the guide to climb the mountain, I'm going to put you over to that expert over there, help you, give you that person that can take you there. I love it. So, so, so cool. And I think when we do put it in kind of this story perspective, it might be easier to see that, because we're just detached enough, like you were saying, Patty, right? Just detached enough to see where is it that I want to be. Yeah, helps just take the stress off. Totally. This is a great one. Deciding whether to start a leadership coaching business. My story is that I'm not sure if I know enough. So common.
Like, okay, who wants to raise their hand and say that might be at least a chapter in their book?
Yes. Exactly.
Is anyone else right here, right now on this call ever had that thought? Has it ever been your story?
Exactly. It's so true. And and when we look at leadership too, and I think this again, how do you define leadership? And what parts of the leadership journey do you want to help with? Where is your area of expertise right now? And it's not to say that you won't learn more skills as you go. You can always develop new things, and I think sometimes we think of, if I'm going to do leadership coaching, does that mean that I'm working with executives and people running, multi-million-dollar companies? Or am I a leadership coach for someone that's maybe just getting started? Because you just have to be farther along than the people you're actually working with. What can you bring to the table to help them? Am I helping parents develop leadership roles with their children? Where is my area of expertise within leadership that I do feel confident stepping into, that I can really help people with? Because I truly believe that every single one of us can be a leader, for sure, no question. And we can step into spaces where we really can do that really, really well, and so it's really defining what does that look like for you. And then noticing maybe there are a few more skills you need, or those kinds of things, but those can come, and they can come later, but they don't have to stop you from where you're at right now. And I think if this is something you feel really, really drawn to, then it's looking at that story and figuring out, okay, how can I do this right now? Where can I make the biggest difference? Who really could benefit from what I have to share? Who do I want to help, and how can I help them?
Yeah, and I'd kind of tag on to that idea too, that when you consider the story that your clients are part of, that like their hero's journey, and if you talk to enough people, and this is what Georgie was talking about right at the beginning of this call, about this idea of finding out what their story is. For a lot of us who have expertise, we often discount the amount of expertise we have because we've had it for so long. It's just part of us. It's part of how we think. It's part of how we operate. And until we actually get into conversation with actual potential client type people who tell us their story, then we go, wow, they need a whole lot of really basic stuff. It is just kind of like, oh, wow, they don't know this and they don't know that. And then we realize when we have those conversations with people that we know a huge amount compared to them, because we are the heroes in that story, and our story has to do with our expertise. Our expertise is part of what we do. It's, for you it's leadership, for me it's marketing, It's business, and I've been living and breathing this stuff for years and years and years, and it's only when I'm in conversation with clients or potential clients that I realize, holy crap, I know a lot. When I get into my own bubble and I'm in a learning mode and I'm learning from people who are more experienced than me, I start to tell myself this story that I'm not good enough, I don't know about as much as those people. There's still stuff I don't know. I haven't consumed the entirety of every book ever written on sales and marketing. I haven't taken every course. It's like I've only, taken as much as I can. I tend to get caught in that loop and tell myself a story I don't know enough. But as soon as I talk to actual real people who need my help, I'm like, oh, okay, right. I have lots to contribute here, and I suspect that might be true for you as well. It's part of the reason Georgie and I are just on people about this idea of talk to people now, talk to people. Like, don't make up a whole bunch of plans in your head and get everything all lined up before you talk to people. Like, talk to people early and often.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. If I focus on what I do know that I know, then I'll be more confident. Exactly.
Yeah, it
So
goes back
good.
to that comment about, deciding what part of the journey you want to be on. Or, like maybe you're the guide for one particular crossing on a river in the jungle path kind of thing. It's like, I'm the foremost expert on this particular river, this particular crossing. This is what I'm going to help people with, and I'm going to stand here and guide them through it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
true.
I'm not leading the whole trip. I'm just standing here at this particular crossing, helping people get across safely right here.
Yeah. So good. Here we go. As long as the person knows something, they know enough. One of the tools I want to help give people is something that helps them find the guides they need when they need them along the journey. What are some other good words for tools? It sounds weird when I'm thinking through a fairy tale.
Tools. Well, when you're thinking about fairy tales, like it might be the like kind of like the magic genie or the magic shoes or the magic wand or um, something like that. Like it might be something that and for a lot, especially for people who happen to be in kind of transformational or healing kind of work, sometimes these tools and techniques can feel like magic.
Exactly.
You get something
Exactly.
that works really, really, really well. So it might be that. It might be a gift
Superpowers.
that you can give people,
Yeah.
a
Gifts.
superpower.
Superpowers. Um,
Gadgets,
yeah.
like to make it kind of fun, right?
Spectre
Not kind of a
Gadget.
running
Go, go,
theme for
Gadget,
James Bond's.
go.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Go, go, Gadget, go. You know, my kids used to watch that when they were little. Yeah.
It could be plans. It can be cheat sheets, get out of jail free cards kind of stuff. Um,
Templates, permission slips, um, all kinds of
Potions.
things. Potions. Ooh, I like potions. Magic potions. Um, yeah, it's very, very, very cool. Magic is very good. Yes, indeed. We love magic. Superpowers and gadgets are great too. Yeah, right. Because you can have fun with this. You
Oh,
know.
that's another permission slip.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. It's my favorite, actually. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
and
could be fun and easy.
it can be fun and easy, and it goes back to who are you? Well, how would you speak? What would you say? How would you want to do this? You know, what really works for you and the people that you're serving.
Hmm.
It's yeah, I need fun for sure. Yeah, me too. Let's see, Facebooky people. I just sent them away
Fun to
from
figure
me.
out what my get out of jail free card would look like.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm definitely my own worst critic. And we all quite often we often are. That's for sure.
It's interesting. Get out of the get out of jail free card. We're one of our topics this week is the get out of jail free card.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
have a get out of jail free card for you this week.
It's coming up. tomorrow,
Is it?
isn't it?
I think so.
Yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be sharing a very good get out of jail free card for sure. Um, yeah, it's very exciting.
But that is an interesting concept to think about in terms of your own work. Is what is the get out of jail free card? Like, what is the all-purpose technique that, if all else fails, pull this one out because it always works, or it almost always works. Like, what is that one thing?
Yeah.
Can be a useful thing to think about.
What a great question. Maybe that's something everyone could think about. And then tomorrow when we come to the call, we'll just ask you if you've thought about your get out of jail free card. You don't have to share it with us, and you can if you want, and you don't have to. But maybe as we leave today, think about what that would be for you and your business. What is it that you need? Really cool.
Yeah, and what do you offer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So cool.
It's
Isn't it
an
so?
interesting way to think about it too. It's like when you think about your bag of tools and your bag of tricks and potions and gadgets and all this other stuff that you offer up in your work with clients, that can often be a way to go, okay, what kind of, what place in the journey, what obstacle can these gadgets really help with, right? When you start thinking about, okay, hey, these are my gadget, my recipes is another one, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's a
got this
good one.
bag of tricks, right? And it's like, okay, if I was going to look at other people's stories, other people's movies, it's like, who out there is really struggling? Who could use this gadget that I've got? Where can I make the biggest difference? Is specific place in the journey? Is a specific kind of journeyer that needs what I have? Is it a certain kind of um, a desire, a goal that somebody has that these gadgets or tricks or potions or magic wands or whatever will really work well with? It can help answer some of those questions in a less boring way than, who is my target market niche avatar?
Exactly. Well, because I think the creativity starts flowing, and when creativity starts flowing, possibilities open up, and sometimes answers come a little quicker. And again, because we're not so attached to it either, I think it becomes fun. We've created some space. We're just having fun with this thing, and answers come.
Yeah, and it's that outside perspective, right? It's like that stepping back, looking at the bigger arc of the story, and
Yeah,
how that might work. Get a little bit less wrapped up in it.
exactly. I love it. So good. Any other? Let me just check the Facebook. Oh, here we go. I came across this statement recently while working on my new business plan. If you're not marketing your business to a target market right now, you are not stating clearly enough how you can help someone specific. You can't be everything to everyone in the marketing world. You won't stand out and your clients will never see you. Thoughts?
I have many thoughts on it. The number one thought being, we did a whole episode on this about future clients. Um, in general, I think it is helpful to recognize that we're really, really helpful for certain people, but it's, to me, the focus needs to be on the problem, not on who the person is. It's like, what is the thing that you help them with? What is the pain that they are in? What is the desire that they have? A lot of times when people talk about target markets and avatars and niches and all of that, they focus on the wrong damn things. They focus on, what the character is wearing, and how tall they are and how old they are and where they work. And none of that stuff is relevant for service-based businesses. What is relevant is, what do they want? What are they struggling with? If you can get clear on that, it solves that whole problem. Mm-hmm. So it's not that I disagree with those kind of statements. I disagree with the way they're communicated and implemented. Way too much focus on irrelevant details, and not nearly enough focus on what the problem is.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think we talk about that a lot too, especially in the beginning when you're just getting started, is that top of that funnel is pretty wide and open, but you're kind of clear about the problems that you do solve.
Yeah.
And that's what you can then, become known for, are the problems that you're solving for people.
Yeah. Where do your gadgets work best?
Exactly. Exactly. Love this. Very helpful to think of me as a guide for a client. Love the idea of gadget helping for particular obstacle. Very well put, Patty. Yes, this episode has been very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, because there's so much and I think we talk about this a lot when we talked about filtering information that's coming at you, right? Just stop for a second, think about the source, think about what's being said, and kind of always hold that little and in your hand, knowing that it could be this and there may be another piece to it, right? That it's not always just one thing or black and white. There is a whole lot of gray in there, and things are very context specific quite often. It depends. We often say this a lot. People ask a question, well, it depends. And then give us some more information, and then we can provide a little more help. But it really, it depends. And it's nice to be clear about what problems can I solve. Like say, what am I the guide for? Is it this river crossing? If you need to move from this bank to this bank and get across this river, we're your people. Got it. We can help you over this bridge with our potions and gadgets and all that good stuff. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and you're not going to stand at the bridge and go, I only let women cross between the ages of 35 and 45 who are, shorter than 5'6" and have 2 children.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. Anyhow.
I like this. Very clear on the problem I solve. I've been using and lots in the last month. Awesome.
Ooh, you accomplished the mission.
Yeah. I love it. And yeah, exactly. Literally, I think it's like my new favorite word. And so good. I'm just checking your time. Oh, we're 10:31. Woohoo! Okay, well,
we're only a little bit over time today.
Only a little bit over time. That's right. Thank you guys again so much for the questions, the comments, the discussion. We love it when there's participation and discussion. It's really, really. I think it makes it more enjoyable for everybody. Definitely for us, we like having people to talk to and people to engage with. So, thank you so much for that. Tomorrow we are back with the
Get Out Free card.
The Get Out of Jail Free card. Very, very exciting. Yeah.
Alrighty. See ya next time.
See you tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.